have a right to be issued identity and travel documents. They have a right not to be expelled. They have a right not to be punished for illegal entry. They have a right to work, a right to housing, a right to education, public relief. So, what happened here? Because the Haitians at the Texas border didn't get none of those things I just
No, they sure didn't.
And this was satisfied in 1951 at the United Nations Refugee Convention. So either the United Nations misprinted this or they're liars. And then I heard Biden say about 2 months ago, I think it was back in July or maybe in June, he was doing a conference press and he was talking about any refugee that comes to the American borders, they're going to be welcome, they're going to take in as asylum. I heard this come out of this man's mouth. So while they at the border whipping him with reins, whips, whatever you want to call it, let's say it's a rein, it's not a whip, but he's using it as a whip. So I'm going to go back to the word whip again, and cursing at them and yelling at them, and you can see the hate in this man's face. So I know what I heard him say at this conference press, and I know what I'm seeing at the border. So who's paying those border patrol slave masters? Because they're getting paid to do that, and that money's coming from somewhere. And Biden pretending like he's not sad, he don't like what's happening, and it's disgusting and rah rah rah. So, like, make it make sense to me.
Well, let's follow the chain. Let's follow the chain. Let's follow the chain of command.
My fairy godmother.
Well, let's follow the chain of command. Who's in charge in Texas? Is it not the governor?
Well, you live in Texas.
So his actions are congruent with Biden's actions, but he's the one that's doing it. Now they both can get in trouble for it. But who's in charge of Texas? That's Abbott. So
the Spaniards, right?
They get the order to do that from Abbott. Then he needs to be taken to the UN and brought up on charges.
Right. I feel it came from the White House via UN. Because they'll put something down in writing to make themselves look righteous, but when it's time to act on those words, we see something different, like what we're seeing.
He's still responsible.
Yeah.
He's still responsible. Chain of command.
It said they have a right to be issued identity and travel documents. And they have a right not to be expelled, meaning they could seek asylum. They have a right not to be punished for illegal entry. They even put in the word illegal, like they can enter illegal and they won't be punished. And this is coming from the United Nations, the Refugee Convention. You know.
Yes. So
this don't look right to me.
Well, I don't know how much you guys know about our journey as Haitians in this hostile American Mediterranean, or where would you like me to start? Because the law has never been applied to Haitians. Ever. The United States has never applied its immigration laws in equal, unbiased manner towards Haitians. And I've been doing this for 40 years. The first time I went to a deportation, is there a reason? Is that music yours or mine?
Mine.
Oh, okay.
Is it too loud?
It's up to you. It's good. I just wanted to make sure it was intentional. So, yeah. I mean, this is the Haitian journey, right? We're the most hated ethnicity in the Americas. Everybody knows it's because our ancestors beat 3 European powers to, I mean, they literally invented human rights. because before us there was no. Okay, that is too much. I don't know what that is, but you need to stop it because I can't talk.
No, that's somebody's phone ringing.
Okay, you should probably mute everybody, I guess.
Somebody's phone ringing.
Not mine, but I will mute.
I'll mute mine too. Sorry, with the notifications coming down. Sorry.
Oh, that was my auntie's.
Yeah, I forgot it. I forgot it was on. I was trying to get up a map of the Del Rio, the area of why they focusing on that particular part of Texas. And from what I'm seeing, it's near the Air Force Base where a lot of my family members were. Some of my family members that were in the Air Force were stationed not too far away from there, and not the Lockland Air Force Base. I had family that was stationed there years ago, and you got a couple of rivers going through it, and creeks, bodies of water. My thing is, they had to travel a long way. If they're coming directly from Haiti and sailed or waded, they had to go through a few bodies of water to get over here. Because this, what we saying
came
now?
from South America.
From South. Oh,
yeah.
So they made it seem like they're coming. Okay.
No,
well, that makes sense.
30, 40 years.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
But I'll let Èzili explain that more.
Okay.
And she must, explaining the whole mission of that. A lot of people think that they somehow left Haiti and then they found themselves at the Texas border. Like, come on. How would they?
Yeah, I was wondering how that was going. You know, I'm like, oh my God. Oh, sorry. Oh, gee. Okay.
Okay, so in 2010, Haiti had an earthquake. At that time, Barack Hussein Obama was the president and Biden was the vice president. And Biden and they put the Clintons, Mrs. Clinton was Secretary of State and Mr. Clinton was the UN envoy to Haiti. They used the earthquake to take control of Haiti and steal $13 billion. Their campaign was that they were going to build Haiti back better. Instead of that, the NGOs, the charitable industrial complex, which is a $80 billion business, took, like I said, over $13 billion. And Barack Hussein Obama, who we survived, but he was the worst deporter. He is called in history the deporter in chief. But since the left writes our history, you might not know that. He deported more people in America than any other president before him. And he told Haitians who were survivors of the earthquake that they could not come and avail themselves to those rights that you just read, sister. He said, don't come. If you do, we will send you back to how did Haiti look like? 310,000 people died in 33 seconds. And everything fell down. And there was over 2 million people in the streets. And the predators came. They stole our children. They did all that they could do. And that is what those people you see 10 years later at Del Rio have come from. Because they could not come to America, the Chileans, the Brazilians, the Panamanians, the Colombians, these people made a lot of money selling visas to these Haitian immigrants. And they went legally with visas to Chile, to Brazil, and so on. and they were used and abused, and human traffickers took their money and made them sell their property in Haiti to kidnappers and so on. Around 2016, when these Haitian men had constructed the Olympic Park in Brazil, they started kicking them out. And then they started kicking them out everywhere, in Chile and so on. Honneur, respect, Haiti, Thomas. Could you kindly just take the music out for me? Because I guess my focus is very bad.
My side.
Okay.
I'll go on mute.
All right. I appreciate it. So when the Haitians were kicked out of Brazil and all these other places, there is a route. If you guys go on my, if I could share it, I would. If you guys go on my whatever you call that, my Instagram, you will see it. There is a route from South America going through 11 nations to get to San Diego. And Haitians went that route. And essentially, I don't know if you can see, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see me sharing the screen at all? Can you guys see the screen?
I can see the screen.
Okay. So this is the route that they went.
We can see it.
Okay. So this is the route, okay? If you could see it, they went from Brazil, they went through Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, the jungles of Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, to finally get to like San Diego and then Del Rio. That is the route. They went through, they walked the jungle, they took buses, they took planes, and to us, they are our heroes because they tried to survive when all these nations would not have them or give them the rights you just read, sister. Those are international rights, but they were not given those rights. They kept being deported and deported and deported and deported until they finally got to San Diego or Del Rio. And you saw what happened to them in Del Rio. And the United States has something called Title 42 that says because of the epidemic, they can circumvent this international law. Of course, that's all has been stopped by a U.S. federal judge, but the United States doesn't care about it. So they did what they did and what you saw them doing. So that's really what we're witnessing. These are the pictures. You guys can go on my Facebook because the middle passage continues for Haitians. You see this father holding up his child. It just continues, but it's something that we've been dealing with for a long time. These are the two women, Ellen Lalume, and who at the UN, the U.S. ambassador to the UN mission in Haiti, and then Michel Sisson. They're the ones ruling Haiti. They are called we call them the legal bandits, right? Because the world thinks of them as legal, so-called diplomats who are doing neutral business. But in Haiti, they're the ones that pick who leads us. And after the assassination of the other puppet that they had, Jovenel Moïse, on July 7th, 2021, by a tweet, the UN Wicked Witch of the West, Ellen Lalume, chose this puppet collaborator for biscuits and whatever else he gets to be our acting prime minister. And I hear, though I haven't had the chance today to see it, if it happened or not, They brought him, Ellen LaLune and Michel Sisson brought this man to the UN General Assembly, which is having their annual meeting this week in New York, to introduce him as our leader. Well, one of the things that the Haitians have said is that if you refuse to allow us to rule ourselves, if you bring in death squads and mercenaries and have Ellen LaLune and the NGOs steal the so-called aid money, if you bring us cholera that killed 30,000 Haitians and after the earthquake killed 310, and that poison Haiti's waters, they have no other choice but to leave. But the white man lies, and he's a predator, and the white woman is worse. She gives birth to these liars and these predators. And
Yep.
her estate grows by all his plunder. And so that's what we have. So he will write these laws that sound just. He will have these education that makes him seem like he's like the greatest democracy, justice person on the planet. But just like when he tells you that Europe is in the south, Europe is in the north, you know he lies because it's in the south. So he lies about everything. So when he writes these laws at the UN, which is something I always say, when I say the UN's name, I curse it. And I say that it will go the way of the League of Nations because it's the most undemocratic organized crime institution on the planet. The Eurasian uses the UN to make as if it's all the nations that are having these policies. But no, there are 192, 194 nations at the UN, and 5 people have veto power over all the nations of the world. And who are those 5? If you know who they are, then you know who rules the planet. The United States, we call them the World War II powers, winners, because the Eurasians have been, they're warmongers by nature. They've been fighting each other for more than 6,000 years since they got on the planet. And whether they call it the Crusades or whatever, the Christians and the Christians and the Muslims, the Abrahamic religions, they just fight for bounty. And they just then cover it up with God and all kinds of other laws. But at the end of the day, they are predators and snakes. Yorugu, as Dr. Ani says, or Chichiyuri, as Credo Amutuar says, come into the planet. 5 Eurasian nations control 192 nations, and they call it the United Nations. Those 5 are the United States, France, England, and then the ones to the east is China and Russia. They fight each other, but never on their lands. Like I say all the time, the art of war says, when you're fighting, you try to do it on other people's lands. You use their resources and their blood. So our blood, black and brown blood, our nations, we're the ones that pay for the comforts of these Eurasians, who then write these laws and tell all the unsuspecting people that, oh, refugees, they've got the right to settlement, the right to papers, the right not to be stateless. And yet, Haitians are the most stateless people in the Americas. I'll go and try to give you some examples very quickly. So the way they do it is they'll write these laws like you just read, my sister, 1951, international refugee law that the United States is a party to, and even U.S. law. And then they will say there is something called Title 42 that says if there's a pandemic, you know, that pandemic, then you can circumvent the refugee laws and protect your own public by deporting them immediately and not giving them any rights. And so they're using Title 42 as their excuse for the racial discrimination of Haitian. Understand that the paycheck media will not tell you any of this. They'll not tell you the difference between a migrant and a refugee. They continually call the Haitian refugees migrants because migrants have no protection rights under 1951, under the immigration laws. And the media, of course, will parrot these words. But Haitians are refugees. The difference between a refugee and a migrant is that a migrant is like almost a tourist, right? Someone who makes a choice to leave their country. It's a choice, right? You know how in America, if some of you are Americans, if there's I'm a lawyer, so I kind of like to give people parallels so they understand. If you have a job and you decide to quit the job, you may not be eligible sometimes for what's that thing? Unemployment insurance, right?
Yeah,
right?
Unemployment.
Okay, so if you quit, if you voluntarily leave, then you're not eligible for the legal protections. And that's exactly what they're trying to say and what their lawyers are saying in court, that these Haitians voluntarily left Haiti, so they're not refugees and they're not entitled to protection of refugees. Why does this benefit them? Because the United States is the one that brings us elections and democracy in Haiti. If it was acknowledged that they bring us fake election and that Haiti is colonized and doesn't rule itself and these people are fleeing persecution, then they would be entitled to protection. Then all those 11 countries I just showed you would have to give them protection, but they don't, because all those mulatto countries, you know, all Haitian history, it was the mulattoes that killed the Haiti's founding father. And when Haiti sent the generals to go fight for these same South Americans that are treating us like this, because Haiti did not only beat the French, the Spanish, and the English in combat between 1791 and 1804. They also, after they got their independence in 1804, they sent soldiers to go fight for the freedom of Latin American countries. Haiti fought for the freedom of Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, all those top countries right there that are right below us. Okay? So that's our story. This is why they don't apply the law. They're hanging their hats on this. There's COVID, and we don't want to let these refugees in. On the other hand,
but
you see the
but the Afghanis should be under Title 42 too, because it's like 95,000 of them in total coming here for the past how many years? So how come they're not falling under that? Because they're still coming during pandemic. So the Title 42 is full of crap again, because it's not applying to Afghani, it's only applying to Haitians.
Exactly. So you said it all.
Did you see what I'm saying?
You said it all. Okay, I didn't need to get to it. Thank you, my sister. These, if you're looking through, these are the men that rule Haiti. They're called the core group. And then like way in the back is a little black collaborator, Dr. Ariel Henry. You know, all of this stuff. And this is a tweet we say it's very simple. If the United States doesn't want refugees showing up at its borders, then it needs to stop stealing Haiti election and imposing puppet regimes friendly to its oligarchs' interests. Okay, and stop all of that. I had the High Commissioner, the UN High Commissioner just came out essentially saying it was shocked by the images of the deplorable conditions that it sees under the overpass at Del Rio. And then it says that these mass exploitations under Title 42 without screening for protection needs to stop. This is the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. But listen, okay, these are just words. The UN doesn't have a military that it could go against the United States. The United States pays for like over 50, 60, 70% of the UN budget. So they play their games.
Yeah, but Biden said during the pandemic, which was in July or June when I heard him have this conference press, that if any refugee come to the borders, that they will receive them, blah, blah. So it's still not making any sense because Biden gave them the permission to come.
It makes sense because right.
He didn't say don't come now because it's pandemic.
But they're being labeled migrants.
They're being labeled migrants. I just told you they're not refugees. So they always okay. But I'm going to stop sharing so we can have a conversation. But before we do, there's this is a good video for everybody watching this. All right, so I'm going to try to have you hear this, okay? Because for the first time in history, one of so remember I told you guys that Bill Clinton was UN envoy in 2010 when most of these refugees left Haiti and began this journey looking for freedom. You know, this middle passage. So Haiti is not cursed. Haiti is not collapsed. No, Haiti is colonized. All right.
Exactly.
One ambassador has just broke rank. And this is the first time that's ever happened in our history. I like this young woman's video. I want you to hear it if you can. Here it goes.
In Texas, since all eyes are on Haitian migrants in Texas, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this headline about U.S. Special Envoy Daniel Foote resigning. And as you can see, every major news outlet is saying he's resigning over inhumane deportations. But if anyone was to sit down and actually read his resignation letter, that's not even the most important reason why he's resigning. So unlike the quote unquote left-wing media that just seems to always uphold US imperialism, I'm going to read to you the lesson that Mr. Foote wants us to learn, but our media seems to not want us to know. What our Haitian friends really want and need is the opportunity to chart their own course without international puppeteering and favored candidates, but with genuine support for the course. I do not believe that Haiti can enjoy stability until her citizens have the dignity of truly choosing their own leaders fairly and acceptably. Last week, the U.S. and other embassies in Port-au-Prince issued another public statement of support for unelected, de facto Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry as interim leader of Haiti and have continued to tout his political agreement over another, broader, earlier accord shepherded by civil society. The hubris that makes us believe we should pick the winner again is impressive. This cycle of international political intervention in Haiti has consistently produced catastrophic results. More negative impacts to Haiti will have calamitous consequences, not only in Haiti, but in the United States and our neighbors in the hemisphere. Haitians all over the world have been saying this for centuries, and the United States doesn't want to listen. Diplomats all over the world have been saying this for decades, and the United States doesn't want to listen. Activists and revolutionaries have been saying this for decades, and the United States doesn't want to listen. So I'm hoping that U.S. citizens have a clear and open ear when I say this. Haiti is not unlucky. Haiti is not incompetent. Haiti is colonized, and there are people in power who are determined to keep it that way. Because for centuries, the goal has been complete exploitation of the country and its people.
Okay.
Since all eyes are on Haitian migrants in
I'm
Texas,
trying to.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
He's right.
There you go. I hope that you guys understand what's going on.
I have a question. You said
I'm not feeling
Haiti's,
entitled for it.
you said Haiti's is colonized. In St. Lucia, in my little island, I would consider us colonized as well. Because of our main industry being the tourist industry. So we're kind of being groomed to be servants in hotel industries, what we call plantation by the seas. But it seems to me that there is something in Haiti that these corporations want or they need. Because I mean, the Haitians has been suffering from ever since. So what is it that is in Haiti that makes it such a focus for dispensing so much, disaster and destruction?
For real.
So, besides the bloodline that beat these white-bodied supremacists, our resources. The location of Haiti is central to the geopolitical battle between the West and the East. So Haiti is located at the Middle Passage where Cuba is. And right beneath us is like Venezuela. Okay? So we're in the middle, and I've said this many, many times. The warmongering Eurasians fight for power, and they keep their peace through something called the balance of power. But they're always trying to up one another. And remember, I said they fight their wars on our lands because we beat Napoleon's greatest armies, and because we are non-Christians, because we are not Muslims, because we are the ancient people of Vodouist, and we are the most African nation, even more so than Africa right now.
In the diaspora and at home. Exactly.
Because of all that, they need the bloodline to be extinct.
Mm-hmm.
So resources, revolutionary, and the fact that we won't stop fighting back. In terms of revolution, I say his name, the greatest Black man who ever lived, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Jean-Jacques Dessalines is our founding father. His birthday is in September, and we remember his words. There is something called Dessalines' law. Dessalines said never, there's never.
It's not April he was born?
No. Dessalines, September 20th, 1757. 1757, 1758. So Dessalines, I lost my train of thought. So he, this whole week, because I run the Free Haiti Movement, just a little bit of background for those who might not know. I was born in Haiti. My parents left Haiti because of exactly the U.S. bringing in dictators and maintaining dictators that will maintain the people in hell without civil rights, human rights, or any right. So my parents brought me here in the belly of the beast to give them indigestion. So that journey continues. And so we teach the lessons of Jean-Jacques Dessalines and the lessons of the Haitian Revolution. The Eurasians would not want Dessalines' lesson or the Bois Caïman lessons to be what the catechism of Black people. Free Haiti movement constantly tells people what and how our ancestors won the revolution. Number one, essentially, they put everything besides freedom away. If you want liberty, it has to be the only thing you fight for. If you want liberty, you have to go. I'll give you the example. So 1791, the Haitian Revolution begins. This is after 300 years of brutal white-bodied terror, rape, breeding the women, importing us through the triangular trade that they called their economics. The Africans who were there would be worked to death within 3 years of landing, 3 to 6 years. They would die. It was an inferno, sort of inferno they're trying to do now. But the soul of our ancestors, my name, what we stand for, it really, really scares the turn the other cheek Negroes and the Jesuits, the Masons, all of the secret society folks that know that we know who we are, and what our history is. Because our history wasn't written in a book, it's oral. What I know is not written in a book, it's oral. We are the people of the sun, cosmic people from millions of years ago. We did not come from no, what was that thing they said? I don't know, orangutan? I don't know, whatever.
Or Adam's
or Adam's ribs, or whichever, right? We didn't come from Adam's rib, or we didn't come from I don't know, some ape. Anyways, that very knowledge of the universe is what they don't want out here. What Èzili Dantò is, the divine mother, is what they don't want out here, because the Abrahamic religions destroys the mother. What we give birth to, the nature that we are, because they are just profit over people, soulless entities that have this migrated power that has inhabited them, that we can see as voodooists, but they can't see. That they can get, that they can look at what's happening in Del Rio, Texas, and have this cognitive dissonance because of all their conditioning, and not be able to see that it's not right to hurt a barefoot, unarmed, with shorts man who's trying to bring food to starving people under the bridge that had nothing. Like, they can't see it. So we don't appeal to their conscience because they can't see it. Dessalines said that no white man shall ever step foot in Haiti. He told us that if we let them come back, they will divide us and they will bring us to virtual slavery again. And he was right. Dessalines, at Bois Caïman, 1791, August 14th. The template for the Haitian Revolution is "E Mabamba Kanga Mandele Kanga Bafioti Kanga Nojoki Kanga Yo." I say it in the name of all that we don't see, all that is bigger than we. And it means that the Mandele, it's in the Kinkongo language of Nzinga. The women of the Haitian Revolution who fought were the descendants of Nzinga, who fought the Portuguese, the descendants of the Dahomean warriors who fought the Muslims, and those who lost at Grenada, who had destroyed Africans or tried to destroy Africans in the West, in West Africa, and ended up with what we have today, the thousands of years of Muslim Arab enslavement, where Black males were literally, not like they're doing now with effeminization, but they were literally castrated, and they had castration armies. So Haiti is a continuation of that history, because in 1492-91, Grenada fell, the last Muslim in the Iberian Peninsula, southern France. And that fight was brought to the New World. And the Mahafa is in Haiti, started, right? The Holocaust for Black people in the Americas started in Haiti in 1492 with the pedophile Christopher Columbus. And they met the people of Anacaona and Kaonabo. And those Black folks, indigenous to the Americas, fought back and keep fighting back. Even though, as you know, before Columbus came to the Americas, the other Eurasians came, what they call the Chinese. And now, you know, they mixed with the Africans, and you call them the so-called Indians or Native Indians or whatever that is. But all those lies we know as Vodouists are lies. The reason they have to destroy Haiti is because they cannot let the history books understand that we are the living libraries of what they have been trying for thousands and thousands of years to exterminate on planet Earth. Also, Haiti sits on some pyramids that you will never see because they control our waters right now. But I always invite people to go see the Blue Pyramids in Cuba. And they connect to all those pyramids in Kemet and everywhere else on the planet. The Eurasians want to control the knowledge that they find in these places. So they want that land with no Black people in it. So they bring the UN to cover it up and say they're bringing us democracy. Also, 66 million years ago, there was some sort of intergalactical war, according to the Vodouists. And an asteroid landed in what is now Haiti and the other places and just broke those landmass, what the European calls Pangea, and created the continents you have now. But in that space, the remains of that asteroid unlocks a lot of secrets of life. Haiti is a land of mountain after mountain. Those mountains are asteroid remains that they call iridium. Iridium is about $40 million a ton, I think. Or sorry, 40 billion. But ever since I've been saying it for the last 25 years to 30 years, they keep changing it. If you go and you look up the price of iridium, iridium is used in various ways, but one of the biggest ways is what the Eurasian oligarchs just used it this week to go to outer space, because iridium is the remains of an asteroid. Imagine how hot that was. So it's very, very heat resistance when you go, and they need that kind of metal to build their ships. So they are in Haiti stealing not only our gold, stealing not only the oil of Venezuela, maintaining their balance of power, but also human history. They have to maintain the Vatican's, the Rome lies. And so that's why we're not free. That's why I've had 6 assassination attempts. This are the reasons why we are special. The landmass is Haiti's landmass is over 1 billion years old. Okay, what's in it is something that goes beyond what I can tell you guys. But there are portals, and certain bloodlines can walk to those portals. They can get you back to different places. Ask Haitien, if you have a Haitien friend, what I'm talking about. We call our primordial space beneath the waters. So we have the resources, as I said. We have our knowledge base of how to be the European, which is the Boakaima Call of August 14, 1791. And it means we have to get rid of all that education and stop Mundele, Yorugu, stop his Black collaborators and all his evil forces. This is a simple 3-prong system of getting rid of Black white supremacy. But our educated Blacks who write the books go into all this other complication. But Dr. Neely Fuller told you what his evil forces are. And I keep repeating myself, okay? I'm getting to be a little tired, but...
You're fine. You're fine. I'm okay. Glad you are.
Dr. Neely Fuller says his evil forces are every level of human activity. He converts that into a means of conquest. His religion, his education, his medicine, his law, his entertainment, his human rights organizations, and so on. And until we understand that clearly, we're going to continue to believe a word that Chichayuri says. Until we understand what our ancestors understood. So that's why they have to get rid of Haiti, okay? And this is much deeper, and I have 30 years of work out here for those people who want to go into the Vodun part, which I just went to just a little bit. You know, you all know Bookman's prayer. We said the white man's God want him to commit crimes. But our God, and put an O in it, wants us to do good. And will strengthen our hands to give us the vengeance that we need. So a voodooist never turns the other cheek. They could kiss my you-know.
Can I say it?
Yeah, please.
No, I hate our people that work against our people. Because you're not our people when you do that. And I will not forgive you for that. I'm trying to learn more and more about my people. And if you misdirect me, you're on my shit list.
Exactly.
And you can kiss my ass.
So that's what they do, right? So I just talked to you about the philosophy that they can't have metastasized, the strategy that they can't have metastasized. And then I told you about the resources, the various iridium, what it's used for. It also used for cancer. It's used for all kinds of things, right? This is why Haitians are still alive. Because when they try to give us these diseases, the first thing as a healer I say is take your children to the hillside where there is no plastics, there is no remains of Neanderthals, and put their feet in that land. Haiti's very earth is filled with healing properties. Part of it is that iridium. Part of it is the fact that it's so old, and we were there for so long, and we were the first one to get rid of them. So they really haven't been able to mix their garbage but they are right now. The NGOs, they have clogged up Haiti with plastic and all kinds of things, and and their pedophilia and their pederasty. This is who and what they are. So we are Vodouists. We are not the Abrahamic religions. We worship the ancestors. They are us. Our DNA is their DNA. We are one. We know that. The iridium, the gold, and then geopolitically, as I always say, Haiti holds the balance of power of the Eurasians, right? So they fight each other, but they do it on our lands. So the revolutionaries in Cuba fought them back, and then Russia came to hold that revolution. Without Russia, they would have the Republicans and the Miami Cubans would have destroyed Castro and the revolution. Understand?
Understood.
Then you have underneath us Venezuela, that has what these Eurasians fight for, right? Glitter and comfort, and their philosophy is not about living with nature, but conquering nature. And so instead of having, listening to Tesla, for instance, and doing green energy and the energy that our ancestors had, which is in the pyramids, they dig for the fossil fuel, right? And create earthquakes and fracking and all kinds of things that destroy the planet, right?
Poison the waters and
so on.
Native to the native people they destroy.
Okay. So Venezuela has the largest cache of reserve of oil in the world. The others, of course, is up there by the where in the Middle East, but Venezuela has the biggest, and the European and his greedy, hoarding everything, can't allow them to rule themselves, and use the resources of the country for their people. So he's been fighting to destroy Venezuela, and guess what? The only reason Venezuela and Maduro is still in power right now is because of the military of of Russia. Okay? Haiti is between those two. Cuba, Venezuela. If they lose Haiti, Americans believe they lose the balance of power.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did. Tiu, Asante Sang.
Of course we did. Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating to overstand.
Even the whole iridium part, with the intergalactic asteroid and the beneath the waters gateways. Only certain people from a special line could, navigate those waters or primordial spaces that he was talking about. In itself is just
well, that iridium probably do its travels through the cosmos. It's probably a radiation repellent. So if you're walking through the hills of Haiti, you're cleansing your body of the free radicals that you're consuming in this radioactive food that they feed us. Cancer. You can't tell a doctor you diagnose a doctor with cancer. He will not take chemotherapy because he knows that'll kill him before the cancer. So why are you prescribing it to other people? They know these certain things that we don't know because it's been hidden from us, and they try to take advantage of it. Now that they think that they have Haiti in a position of total conquest. I mean, It's a word game. Migrants versus refugees. Refugees have rights. Migrants don't. I mean, it's. I'm tired of it. It's frustrating.
Yeah, but
I'm sick of them.
there were some Afghanis that
I'm
came
ready
here
for
as
another one
migrants.
of our meteorites to come and hit this planet that will poison just them. There are some good white people on this planet, but it's not enough of them. There's not enough of me to give a shit.
Oh, you want my rattlesnake?
It's frustrating. It's frustrating to learn these different things.
I never even say that. You know, remember Muhammad Ali's rattlesnake conversation, sister. You remember? Right? He says, you know, well, back in the day when white people were coming to him and saying, you know, during the time of Malcolm X, aren't there some good white people? You know,
oh yeah, I remember that interview.
Remember that?
Yes.
He says, you know, if I have 1,000 rattlesnakes coming at me, right, and one of them is a good one, I'm not gonna walk around waiting to see which one is a good one.
Right.
I have that.
Snake is a snake, right?
Right? I mean, really, okay. Remember, I mean, yeah. This is a voodooist thing I'm gonna say to you guys, because you gotta remember this. There is a mass consciousness that's not individual. White-bodied supremacy is not individual. And even the individual who is supposed to be a good person is inhabited by that mass consciousness.
I can believe that. I can believe that. Because even if they don't show it, they will give birth to it.
They can't help it. It's metastasized. You know what metastasized means? So they're inhabited by it. We all are.
It's embedded. Yes.
Some of us fight it. You see, when I first went back to Haiti, 1994, as a lawyer for Jean-Bertrand Aristide, the first democratically elected president of the United States, in 2004, deported to Africa. They love deportation, but they deported a president.
They won't go back to the cave, but they love sending other people back. But
they all and take your land and then tell you can't come. But when I was there, that was the first time I felt that energy. That was the mass consciousness that I would call the mass consciousness. Like it was literally trying to enter my body when I was having meetings with U.S. military and the Southern Command. And I was looking at them. And because my father is Neg Guinée, right? He taught, there's energies in the universe and they're unseen. And I remember that energy trying to climb into my body. And whatever was in me just rejected it. But I was right there face to face with it. And I knew that the white person talking to me had no idea what had inhabited him.
Wow.
So we have to understand these things, people. We are the parents of the universe, not like some children. Anyways, I actually have another interview. So I think I'm gonna try to wrap this up. If you guys and let this person know that I can leave in 10 minutes. What do you think? Is that enough, sister?
Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the piece. We talk about the resources in the Caribbean. We can see that all of the islands which have a lot of resources are the poorest of all of us. And those islands who doesn't have anything are doing okay, or better than the others, I should say. Those that rely on the tourist industry, they're there. But if you watch islands like countries like Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, these places are full of resources, and their currency are the weakest. So as long as you sit on resources, then you're a target. And that's how the world is run.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And you can't protect your resources. You're a target.
Yeah, because I was reading from Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a German philosopher who the Nazis took up as their main philosophy. And his philosophy is war was a part of human nature. And war is unavoidable and it's a must. And might is right. If you cannot protect what you have, then you have no rights to it. And even when that Frankenstein, the white supremacy created, that turned on them, even after his death, these scientists, they took from that same philosophical mindset. From those are the ones that put in all the things to kill us in our food and mostly everything we use. Because I always say that the coronavirus, Black people are suspicious of it because we know that you're already killing us slowly. But coronavirus is something it seems to kill us quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that living in the West, that we're dying spiritually, physically, mentally, and it's draining. And our mistake was not giving, I think, Haiti the praise that she should have been getting a long time ago.
True.
In St. Lucia, in my island, it's basically Roman Catholic. And our last real
In St. Lucia, in my island, it's basically Roman Catholic.
It's Afrocentric, yeah. And we had the Kelly, which still did the African practices of the Netchers or the Loa and Shango,
which still.
So, since it's Roman Catholic, things African are disliked. People look at it with a disdain, you know. And me as a Rastafari that has transcended the Abrahamic deception and accepted my Nile Valley orientation into the world of the spirits. This is not accepted here. And when we talk about Haiti, we see witchcraft, voodoo, and bear in mind, this is still in the Caribbean amongst African people. So we never reached that point that we could appreciate and really honor persons like Dessalines. You know? And it's a very sad thing in the Caribbean because we have been forced to live like double identities. One kind of a corporate, and the next one is like when you go to your family or your brethren on the block, and everything is more real, you know. So we have like a schizophrenia in our minds. So it's a very deep thing, especially when we get on the topic of IT, which did so much. And we have so many great heroes, especially the women. Every time I read about IT, I'm always surprised to hear the power of the one who taught Dessalines, Toya.
Toya, yes.
Toya.
Toya. She taught Dessalines how.
I was going to ask you if you know Toya. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Toya is the truth.
Mm-hmm. And there's Cecile Fatima. There's also Marie Claire.
Marie Claire. There's, of course, there's, Professor Baina Bello, who has the Marie Clara Words organization that you all should support.
Mm-hmm. And there's also a next person I found I was intrigued by him was Mackendal. And there was the Mackendal Revolution, and the whole thing about the herbs and, the Vodun. So that history, that's why I said it's like a miniature of Africans' world history,
Yep.
in that island, that everything just comes together, the savagery, the oppression, and the heroes, the different heroes we have there in Haiti. So I think it's sad that we're not hearing a lot from the Caribbean islands about
Well,
Haiti.
I mean, the what do you call that? The journey for Haitians continues. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, there was the big Bahamas earthquake. Not earthquake, Hurricane Dorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, literally, we haven't even counted the dead yet, but 40,000 Haitians or so probably died at Abaco. Where was the Caribbean rescue? They were deported. They were asked for papers during the storm.
I remember that,
and they were not given help if they didn't have papers.
Right. I remember.
Okay, so you just so like I said, we are the most hated, and it's because we are the most African people. Can you imagine?
For real.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to move to the next one. I'm going to try to put that on my Free Haiti movement. So if you want to watch it, go ahead.
I'm following you now, so yeah, I will watch it.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, sister, for having me. Thank you, Nigist, Saba, brother Heru, Maat, all of you. I appreciate it. And the struggle continues. Honor and respect.
Until next time, right?
Continue.
Maybe next time we can elaborate more on the voodooist and the iridium and the primordial.
Well, get me when there's no crisis, okay? I'm always here. People only call me during crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That's not true.
That's not true. That's true. Not you, but I when I have a little bit more time, I'd be more than happy to. Right now, definitely watch our post on Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Join our newsletter by doing, Èzili Dantò at yahoo.com. That's my email. ER, right? There's an R in the email. There's not an R in my name, but there's one in the email. So it's ERZILIDANTO at yahoo.com. Go to my
Pantheon
website. Yeah. Patreon. And we also have, of course, what's that thing? Cash App, I think. It's Zili D. You can find all that information, okay? Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Okay. I'm going to figure out how to leave.
Yeah, so that was beautiful.
Yeah, brilliant, sister.
Yeah, it was very good. Good, thanks.
Yeah. We definitely have to do this again.
Yes.
Hopefully
yes, sure.
on a different, more metaphysical, galactic type of conversation. She just scratched the surface right now, but we can get more into Antoya and Makadal, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the mortal spaces and the true essence of the voodoo system, what we've been lied about and spooked out about,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like rewrite history. We take the pen in our own hand, rewrite the history that's not been told. We kind of responsible for that because and when we know better, we got to do better. So I think the age that we're in right now, this space that we're in, I think this is the information time for us to give the information, share the gifts and talents and the knowledge and the wisdom that we, exactly. The next generation before us, they'll probably be the ones to put the action behind it. Put the action behind the sword.
Right.
But they got to get if the cup has to be filled first, they got to get the information first. So all we have to do is set the stage for them, and then they'll know when to dance. Not to say that we're not doing action, but it does need to be a little bit more proactive, and I think it'll be the next term that'll be a little bit more proactive. Sometimes how us as sometimes elders, they get offended when you say it'll be the next generation to do it because it sounds like they failed, but it's not necessarily that. It's just that's how the runnings go. What one won't, the next generation will. Because people are going to get tired of seeing what we're seeing and going through what we're going through. We're going to get tired of that, So that's how I see it. For real. The earth will get back in order. And I think the Haiti situation is going to sort itself out because I'm telling you, Biden said this a few months ago. He didn't say don't come because it's a pandemic. He didn't say if you flew from Haiti or flew from Jamaica and you come to America trying to seek asylum, it doesn't work like that. He should have been more specific. But he wasn't, And this is why you had all the Haitians at the border like that. So he has to explain. He didn't explain himself right. He's just running his mouth, running his mouth because he was really truly talking to the Afghanis and the white races.
Now he's being Jim Crow
He couldn't
Joe.
say that in public press. Yeah, he couldn't in public press. So he's just speaking general, but we know who he really was talking to. He was never really talking to anybody black. Because trust me, they would have just stayed in Chile, they would have just stayed in Brazil, they would have just stayed in Peru, they just stayed in Colombia or Panama, Mexico. They would have just stayed they would have had a clearance on what he mean by asylum. You know what I mean? So because of that, I think I feel things are going to start, weighing itself out in its proper perspective.
Right.
Especially with the men on horses and they went in it. That has to you whipping a old man with food in his hand to go feed his family. So what would happen if he would snatch them off the horse and they would have kicked a hole in his chest? Then what? Then you'll say we're violent. That's why we don't want them here because they're violent. But you're the one enforcing violence first. So that has to be cleaned up all the way.
Yeah, it's the world is founded on inequality. The Western world is founded on inequality, and to upset that is to upset the order of everything. Inequality.
Exactly. Anytime it's off balance, they like that because they are off balance thinking people.
Yeah, because the fight against Haiti it's been going on for so long. That's been since I was a child.
Right, it never stops with them.
It never ceases, disaster after disaster. And there's also the perception, because the real problem is the perception. Is how the people that could help and assist perceive them. And that is where all the power is, in symbols, in the perception, in images. And this is how the European controls everything. And through Hollywood, they found a way to reinvent the image of the European to the entire world. We should have known already that that's the biggest thief, the biggest con man in history. Stole 5 continents in 500 years. And still today, he's the world's
still
police.
running. Still not happy.
Yeah, the biggest thief has
No,
turned
that's
into the world
satisfying.
police. So it's crucial. It's very crucial. And now we have of course, the vaccine, and that will spike up the fear in African people, because we are people that live. A lot of us like to live for the now, and because we live for the now, we end up
That's
falling
right.
victim. We fall victim to a lot of our vices,
And fears.
immediate pleasure. So that's why we have all these sicknesses, the hypertension and things. So obviously a virus like that will kill us first, because we don't live
Right.
for the future, because the future seems somehow depressing, because we really don't have a say in our future. We're just following. We're just following. We don't know where we're going, but we're following. There's no climax to it. There wouldn't be a day we wouldn't be paying water, we wouldn't be paying electricity, or there's no climax. We're just following something like a merry-go-round. Whereas we're supposed to be working towards a climax, clean earth, love, broken borders, clean water, no more paying for electricity. We go on solar. Like our advancement has to do with just comfort and not the realization and practicality of life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everybody want a
So,
quick fix now. They want it to happen now.
yeah, yeah. Now that's what modernization is. Having everything now, having everything immediately. But we know if it doesn't take time, it has no substance. So we end up with
True.
a lot of things doing quickly, and we losing experiences, we losing substance. So we end up as empty shells, because we don't honor things of substance anymore. But this is all from
Exactly.
the European logic. It's a European philosophy of life, to have everything now. When the Europeans went to Hispaniola, right now we call Haiti, they said when these guys ate a meal, they said that meal could have shared for 3 natives for 3 days. So they have avaricious appetite for other people's stuff.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Like
and
what
when they
Zelia was
could,
saying, they'll
mhm,
go to war with each other, but they'll never fight at home. They go to somebody else's house and fight.
yeah, yeah, because they
You
are
know, like you
masters
at
of
a.
war.
hmm
Yeah, I was saying they
It
are
reminds me of
masters.
like, yeah, big time mobsters, big time. It reminds me of like back in the day when you have your house parties or your backyard parties, and because there's two rivals having a fight with each other, they wait till the party come to go and start shooting up. They don't go and fight on their own terms. They wait until there's a celebration or they're going somebody else's term and then want to start fighting. And that's how that European operates. Like she was saying, they won't fight on their land because they got to go home. They want to go back home to things in order. They'll come over here and fight.
Hmm.
Mess everything up over here while they're home sleeping in their bed, their clean water, got their lights running and clean food. But where they was just fighting at is destroyed. So it's like that. That's I would call it that's that European mentality when you're having this good party in the basement or a good backyard party, and then boom, somebody starts shooting, and you find out, oh, that's JJ and Ray Ray. They had beef since forever, and now Ray Ray's out of jail, and JJ said when he got out of jail, he was going to get him, but they don't fight somewhere else at JJ house or Ray Ray house. they fight at somebody else's house, you know, and innocent people get hurt, people die, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality that Black Americans picked up. African Americans pick up that mentality too, you know. I see them behaving like that. What they'll do at your space, they won't do in their own space. Like some of them just act like typical Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
No, for real.
Yeah,
They act like typical
this
Europeans.
world would be paradise without them. We would not have learned those bad habits from watching them. We watched them get away with it. We watched them succeed in with those bad habits, and we think equal, we can do it too. No, if one is not our nature.
Right. Right. That's why we get so upset when we see them doing it, because we know that's not really a part of us. That's not a part of our essence. That's something that they voluntarily took on as a habit, you know.
There's a thing we say. There's a thing we say here. There are people of the trees and people of the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
People of the concrete, they develop the ego of the European. Because I can understand that you have to have a strong ego to survive as a minority in the white people's land.
Right.
You know? And there's a difference in character between the African American and the Afro-Caribbean. Because we experience, I guess, the rivers, climbing trees. You know, we're just at peace with nature. You know, most of us, we grew up without electricity. We had to walk carrying water. You know, these walking bare feet. You know, we experience all of these things. So you get a different feel when you speak to an African American who raised in the concrete jungles of New York.
Of course.
Because sometimes they come to the Caribbean, and when they come into nature, the way they stand in those areas, like let's say we go to a waterfall, and the way they would try to balance themselves, you could see it's a disorientation for a black person to be in the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
It kind of separates you from creation, from nature.
Mm-hmm.
So if a lot of them can get out of the cities and go to the places where there are trees, streams, try to set up an environment there, you know, it will be a better feel, you know, for your African spirit. And I always wonder why the African Americans don't assist Caribbean people to in more like setting up libraries, trying to enter government, funding persons to enter governments, and because we have to take it to a whole political awareness. And we are basically 90% African people. But the only thing that has us is our mindset.
That's right, because of brainwashing. You know, from both ends, you know. Both sides has a colonial washing to where we just can't magnet together, you know. It won't gel together. There's always something that's bringing a border between it, you know. There's always something.
But I think right now the media is supreme right now due to the lockdowns and the shut-ins. Right now the media reigns supreme, and I think we should be using it more often to reach out to more different persons in different countries in the world that are on the mission of the African Renaissance. So we can have a, network of different persons from different islands, and we can build something from that. Because I mean, Marcus Garvey did it, and there wasn't no internet yet.
Exactly.
So we have a lot going for us when it comes to that. But at the same time, we still have to have a certain level of privacy. A certain level of privacy. So we move in stealth.
I agree.
Because when Africans unite, that will be like waking a sleeping giant. And we have so much talent and so many resources that they will just be unstoppable.
We should be doing a lot better by now. We should be.
But I think they sensed it, and that's why the corona and all these things came up, because they were sensing that we are waking up, and too many African millionaires are popping out, especially because of the internet.
Right.
So they had to find a way to reach into our pockets, destroy our businesses, because a lot of black businesses went down under. And I think Corona was more a fight against our economics than health.
Exactly.
Because in IT, I heard they weren't vaccinating anyone.
The rate was like 0.
Yeah.
So
right now,
a lot of Caribbean was at almost a 0 rate. Even some parts of Florida.
Well, the president said that there are people drink this tea, and it was from these 2 different herbs, and they didn't eat it. And as soon as they assassinated him, what was that? Kamala Harris came out and said that we are now shipping vaccines.
Yes, I remember that. Yes, exactly. Because they know the remedies. They don't have to be vaccinated. The only time they get cancer is when they come over here. When they're back home, they're living to 99, 101 years old.
Same way the other way. When you leave from here, when you leave from this country and you go visit somewhere and you stay for a couple weeks or so, you feel that difference. And you know exactly when you come back to this shithole.
Your whole biochemistry just feels differently.
Yep.
It's true.
So they know.
It looked like my auntie is sleeping.
I'm up. I am up. I'm just sitting still. I'm up. I am up listening to everything. I'm taking it all in. I'm not missing a thing.
You have any comments on that?
I want to say give thanks for inviting me. I really learned a lot, was reviewed a lot. I agree with everything everyone said. I really do. I'll chime in more the next time. I like to chime in a lot more the next time, contribute more. Definitely.
Yeah, different.
Whichever, I'll do my best to chime in. But I am going to leave you right now because I've got some calls coming in.
Right, I hear your phone operating.
Yeah, I have some calls coming in. So I will talk to you soon, and bless up to all of you. Good thing.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Reasonable tip.
Yeah, I got to roll back too because there's some things I need to do before tomorrow, and then I got to get up and do some stuff early in the morning.
Right.
Hoping that my mom is not coming back in town until tomorrow, Monday. I really don't want to see her.
Okay.
Really don't.
Well, okay, my brother, it was nice.
All right, nice to meet you too. Peace and love, and be blessed.
Uncle Jassonet.
Yes.
Yes, Empress. It's just you and I now.
Yes, I was about to log off.
Well, it was a nice discussion. I really enjoyed Empress Èzili.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yes. And the history of Haiti is quite fascinating and inspiring.
And there's so much more to be talked about, you know?
Yeah.
So much more.
And she mentioned Dr. Bayelo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listened to her too. She's brilliant.
That's the Haitian woman with the gray afro?
Yes, with the white hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Much welcome anytime.
Hopefully we'll have another one soon.
Yes, and I'll definitely keep you posted. I'm going to find out tomorrow what her schedule will look like, maybe in 2 weeks, perhaps. You know?
Okay.
Depending on how her schedule looks, but definitely, yeah, in the next 2 weeks, it seems like that could work out.
All right.
And then we'll have a different conversation.
Yeah.
All right, brethren, give thanks.
Yeah, Shemem Hotep, Uncle Jassonet.
Shemem Hotep, Uncle Jassonet.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them. That in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a. Let's get back to the gritty.
Developed by recognizing the common enemy.